From turbocharged Eurodance in Newcastle to Pennine psychedelia and Grime in Hull, the north of England keeps underground scenes thriving outside the glare of the mainstream. Welcome to 5 of the strangest Whitehaven punk band Scumbrians in their hometown. Photograph Christopher Thomond for The Guardian. In a terraced house in coastal Whitehaven, young punk band Scumbrians are crammed, unfashionable bondage trousers and all, into bassist Christy Mason's father's kitchen. "We never realized how big punk was round here," says singer Luke Norman, armfuls of tattoos creeping under his NHS hospital cleaner's uniform. "But when we formed the band we realized that there were loads of others like us." It is estimated that 15 or 16 such outfits are currently gigging in the county. With its breathtaking landscapes and Wordsworth and Beatrix Potter associations, Cumbria seems an unlikely punk rock hotbed, but it is the perfect breeding ground for a disaffected, underground music scene. "Windermere and Grasmere are honeypots," says Maddie Little, guitarist in Kill Spectre, trying to be heard over the racket of hen parties in Carlisle Station. "But once you get beyond the Lake District, Cumbria is grey. There aren't many proper jobs and it's easy to feel like an outcast. Punk is our alternative community. Bands attend each other's gigs and are mutually supportive. There have been punk groups in Cumbria since the Ramones played in Carlisle Market Hall in 1977, but interest was rekindled when local promoter Dave Bell started putting on gigs in pub cellars. Today, the community spans generations. Kill Spectre's members are aged from 19 to 45. Carlisle Rowdy Sort's top dog consist of 2 lifelong punks and 2 much younger converts. Drummer Rab Desborough hardly came from happy hardcore. "But I used to slip Nirvana into my DJ sets and speed it up," he chuckles, "so it wasn't a big stretch to join a punk band." Guitarist Nigel Barton witnessed that Ramones gig aged 15 and underwent a political awakening. "I got involved in Cumbria under nuclear threat cunt," he sniggers. But no one would wear the t-shirt. Today, 2 generations his junior, Scumbrian's mix of raucous old-school punk and contemporary subjects such as refugees and 0 hours contracts is genuinely affecting. Raging about the world has already cost guitarist Jock McAllister his job. "My boss was trying to ring me while we were playing," he grins. "I came off stage to a text message, 'You're fired,' ouch." But recently, Scumbrians, top dog and fellow Cumbrians No Thrills and Hext appeared at Blackpool's Rebellion Festival. Could Cumbrian punk be ready to go overground? The music isn't news, but it's raw and honest and speaks for a forgotten generation, considers Maddie Little. "If one of us does a really good gig in Manchester or London, I'm sure it will take off." Dave Simpson at Crisp, Callum Keeler and Joseph Armstrong at Delicious Clam, the gig venue, recording studio and rehearsal space they are building in Sheffield. Photograph Christopher Thomond for The Guardian. No one is really in charge. DIY venues in Sheffield, egg boxes on the wall, nominal door fees, eclectic music and an unwritten "don't be a dick" rule. These sorts of spaces are currently booming in Sheffield. "If you can see it, we've built it," Ed Crisp says, while showing me around Delicious Clam, a rough and ready but charming collectively run studio, practice space, label home and venue that opened this year. Located in a former wig shop next to where the indoor Castle Market recently stood, Delicious Clam is one of many idiosyncratic venues that are turning the city into the DIY underground capital of the UK. There is also the more polished The Big Wow, located in an old welder's workshop, punk and hardcore mecca, the Lughole Plus Plot 22, the Audacious Art Experiment TAAE, and community spaces such as Food Hall and Regather. No one is really in charge, it's a collective where everyone has an equal say, TAAE's Luke Twyman says of his venue, a dinky and wonky space that has crammed in some glorious parties over the years, from late-night raves with Helena Hoff to gigs by the Minutemen's Mike Watt. These microvenues dotted around the city, generally accommodating 30 to 100 people, are filling gaps left by the closure of pubs and small venues such as the Grapes and the Red House, while serving as an antidote to corporate, or increasingly gentrified spaces. Eschewing £5 pints, unsympathetic sound engineers and brusque door staff. The aim is, as TAAE's Nick Potter says, to rewrite a lot of the social norms that are embedded in traditional music and drinking establishments. With members having access to the space during the day, it creates a place for experimentation, collaboration and socializing during hours most venues don't offer. When it does run late into the night, discrimination and harassment, still an ugly part of club and gig culture, aren't tolerated. And also, says Potter, there is scope for offering experiences outside of the usual financial necessities, without expensive drinks or enforced entry fees. Bring your own is the norm, but first and foremost, just bring yourself. No one should be turned away from community entertainment and socialization for lack of funds. fundraisers, crowdfunding campaigns, membership fees, store takings, and lots of donated time and expertise keep these places going. The more spaces that open up, the stronger the sense of creation, community, and collaboration. We share ideas, building materials, tools, even venues when places get double booked, Crisps says, with Twyman echoing as more spaces open up, the scene has really come together to form more of a community that identifies with certain economic values, as opposed to just music taste. Daniel Dillon Ray Chidawarka on his North Hull housing estate. Photograph Christopher Thilmont for The Guardian. It's our identity. Hull's rap scene. Philip Larkin remarked that Hull, geographically isolated on the East Coast, was a city that is in the world yet sufficiently on the edge of it to have a different resonance. Thus, after producing artists as diverse as Mick Ronson and the beautiful South, the city of culture is now witnessing an explosion of grime-influenced music. Local acts emerging from below the radar include rapper Chidawarka and the Lockdown Collective, MCs Muzzy Swax, Hybrid Kid, Playa One, Cameo Bricks, and Live Lands. Lands also drums in Bud Sugar, a multiracial, special type 5-piece whose euphoric, socially conscious pop reflects modern Britain's multicultural society. Hull MCs are quite different from their London or even Manchester counterparts. They don't rap about guns or clothes. Instead, in Hull accents, they spit bars about their lives in the city. It's our identity, explains Orca, 29, who, a sliver over 2 meters tall, 6 feet 7 inches, is literally the biggest MC in Hull. As the main players cram into a coffee bar, it's also striking to hear how many of them grew up with single mothers, experienced racism. Orca was the first non-white kid on his estate, or what he calls trials and tribulations. 3 weeks in a young offenders institute, a nice little holiday. But I grew up, he smiles, and describes how a university degree and youth work set him on a new path. Although Orca and Bud Sugar are musically different, their numerous shows together reflect a shared outsiderness. We were outside the bubble, explains the latter's singer, Bakary Bax, under his gravity-defying dreadlocks, so we had to make our own. Alienation from the city's drinking scene and clubs playing rubbish music drove them to put on their own nights, such as O'Rourke's Audacity, as an alternative. The big man has been a grime geek since he was 9, when mates would grumble, "You can't listen to this rubbish, it's too fast." After freestyling in his bedroom in an American accent, my mate said, "Your flow is sick, but that needs to stop." He chuckles. He connected with producer musical partner Deez Kid via Facebook. Bud Sugar, meanwhile, combine an array of disparate influences, grime, hip-hop, funk, the influence of Bax Mum's African and reggae records, and even a ukulele, to create a vibrant, original sound he calls Codhead Skank Afropop. Orca recently appeared at Radio 1's Big Weekend and thinks the scene can't get bigger locally. "If I just become the biggest thing in Hull, I've failed," he insists. "I want people to say those guys put the city on the map." Dave Simpson, Fred Fethian outside Beatdown Records in Newcastle. Photograph Christopher Thilmont for The Guardian. It's kept us on the straight and narrow. Machina in Newcastle. There's a track by Machinarium on a recent Monta musical label compilation that is called Don't Ever Change. It's aptly titled because Machina, turbocharged 170,180 BPM Eurotrance capped off with rapid-fire mixing, has been the sound of the northeast of England for 20 years, without ever bowing to fashion. The northeast scene has always thrived on that high-energy vibe, says promoter and youth worker Sandy Duff, like Italian piano house, and then happy hardcore. But in the late 90s this Spanish machine music, Machina, started to overtake the UK hardcore, and became coupled with a unique MC style. That style, with local accents to the fore, started very simple, essentially rave-hyping with occasional boasts or threats, and remains rigid and on the beat stylistically. But bit by bit, it has come to reflect the lives of the scene's participants. "People really listen to us," says popular MC Rockeye. "Like, the MCs are the stars. I've had kids in hospital get in touch saying how much the lyrics mean to them, and it makes us realize how seriously this is taken. Doing it has helped me, too. It's kept us on the straight and narrow after I got out of prison." MCs like Rockeye, says Fred Fethian, of the Music Education Project at Sage Gateshead, are the YouTube generation, who talk about their lives more. Lately they've started to refer to the music as Monta after the label, and the tunes are getting more stripped down for the MCs. Some are even starting to take influences from grime and hip-hop for the first time. Amazingly, it's still a vinyl culture, with a constant stream of new tunes shifting significant physical units, and classics sometimes fetching hundreds of pounds. The scene is truly local. Rockeye rattles off Chesterfield Street, Hartlepool, and Middlesbrough as having the main events outside Newcastle, with just the occasional rave booking in Liverpool or Scotland, but it is growing and spreading. It was underground for years, he says, but honestly it's mainstream here now. Monta Musica can sell out 2,000 tickets for the Newcastle Academy easy, and you've got to see the energy there to believe it. Maybe one day, says Fabian, someone'll make a Machina track with a chorus as well as just MC verses, and have a breakout record. Until then, though, it remains almost unknown outside the region. Another weird mutation in British dance music. Joe Muggs, Sophie Cooper in the Golden Lion, Todmorden, West Yorkshire. Photograph Christopher Thomond for The Guardian. The towns have a vibe and an aura. The Transpennine Underground. The valleys of the Pennine Hills were once at the heart of the Industrial Revolution. Now, the buildings left behind by cotton and commerce have found a new lease of life, providing cheap spaces for a thriving left-field music scene. The Trades Club in Hebden Bridge is at the center of this Transpennine network of venues, promoters, artists, writers and free-thinking heads. Booker Mal Campbell puts the area's enthusiasm for weird sounds down to a reaction to the post-Mumford Sons happy earnest people playing mandolins folk scene, and adds that you do see people magic mushroom picking quite a lot. The spirit of psychedelic derangement is a common theme around these parts. Emma Thompson of the Islington Mill in Salford, the instigators of much of this resurgence in far-out creativity, remembers one particularly hectic night in the former textile mill. Called Bummer Camp and hosted by queer rapper Christine, it was filthy empowerment. People were bouncing well into the next day. She adds that the strength of the developing Transpennine Underground is its collaborative spirit and a lack of ego or rivalry. The people behind Golden Cabinet, a night at the Kirkgate Community Centre in the Yorkshire town of Shipley, agree, citing the Islington Mill as a source of both inspiration and practical help. A giant PA system nicknamed the Tower of Power, which belonged to mill-based experimental group GNOD, regularly made the trip across the hilltops. The sound was incendiary, they say. The windows threatened to fall out and you could hear the bass 3 streets away. While this might be a drastic change from the Kirkgate Centre's usual fare of fitness classes and Lego fun days, they insist that Golden Cabinet is a friendly space. Inclusivity is very important. Although some of the music we put on might seem challenging, we want everyone to feel welcome. The idea that weird music can be at the heart of the community rather than shunted to the margins is common across the Transpennine Underground. Over in Hebden Bridge, the Trades Club acted as a focal point for recovery work during the floods of 2016. Further down the valley, the Golden Lion pub's life as a weird music venue cum community center began when it was seriously damaged by flooding. Now, as well as sets from acid house hero Andrew Weatherall, the ever-present GNOD and groups from the cosmic, psychedelic New Weird Britain scene, you might also find a session on anti-fracking activism or UFOs. Golden Lion promoter Richard Walker puts some of this down to the legacy of the hippie communities who settled in the area in the 60s and 70s. The towns have a vibe and an aura, he says. Musician Sophie Cooper is a Golden Lion regular, using the venue for tour rehearsals, as well as putting on gigs. Attracted to the area by departed local freaky musical hero Ned Netherwood and the prospect of cheaper rent than London, she fell in with the Golden Lion thanks to the encouragement of landlady Matthany Nyla Vanksy. If I want to do a fine art opening, a vegan buffet and a wedding all at once, shall just let me do it, Cooper says. Everyone is really accepting. There are a lot of weird people around here. Luke Turner